Good evening. Tonight we embark on a long, peaceful, and uneventful journey through the entire line of English monarchs. From William the Conqueror in 1066 to King Charles III, we will calmly explore the reign of each king one by one, with no drama, no excitement, just names, dates, and a soothing march through history. Let your mind drift as the royal names carry you gently to sleep. William I, also called William the Conqueror, reigned from 1066 to 1087. He came from Normandy, a region in France. He invaded England in the Battle of Hastings. The battle itself lasted several hours, but we will not detail that. William liked building castles, especially Motte and Bailey castles, which are simple wooden forts on mounds of earth. Many of these castles were built slowly over many years. Castles were important for control and defense. The construction of each castle required many workers, often peasants who lived nearby. It was a slow process. His son, William II, reigned from 1087 to 1100. He was also called William Rufus because of his red hair. William II died while hunting in the New Forest. The exact circumstances of his death are unclear, but it involved an arrow. This arrow was shot by a nobleman named Walter Tyrrell. Although some say it was an accident, others suspect murder. This event happened on a quiet day. Henry I, William Rufus's brother, reigned from 1100 to 1135. He was known for being a cautious ruler who focused more on administration than battle. He spent much time issuing charters and confirming land rights. His reign was generally peaceful. Stephen, a nephew of Henry, ruled from 1135 to 1154. His reign was marked by a civil war, known as the Anarchy, which was a slow and drawn-out conflict. Much of England was disrupted, but not dramatically. People went about their daily lives as usual. Henry II came to power in 1154, founder of the Plantagenet dynasty. He was interested in law and order, creating reforms that laid groundwork for English common law. His reign lasted until 1189 and was mostly stable, though involved in some disputes with the church. Richard I, called Richard the Lionheart, ruled from 1889 to 1899. Though famous for his role in the Crusades, his actual time in England was limited. He spent most of his reign abroad, fighting in foreign lands. His time at home was relatively uneventful. John, Richard's brother, became king from 1199 to 1216. He is often remembered for signing the Magna Carta in 1215, a document that limited royal power. His reign was troubled, with rebellions and disputes, but these events unfolded slowly over years, without sudden upheavals. After King John, Henry III ascended to the throne in 1216 at a very young age, just 9 years old. His early reign was dominated by regents and advisors who slowly guided the kingdom through the aftermath of his father's troubled years. Henry's rule lasted an unusually long time, nearly 56 years, making it one of the longest reigns in English history. During this extended period, many gradual changes took place, though few were sudden or dramatic. Henry was deeply devoted to his faith and was known for his pious nature. He was a builder of churches and religious institutions, many of which took decades to complete. The construction process involved a large number of craftsmen, stonemasons, carpenters, and laborers who worked in a slow and methodical manner. Each stone carefully placed, each beam slowly hoisted into position, reflecting the calm, steady pace of Henry's reign. In terms of governance, Henry worked closely with his council and barons, often negotiating disputes and disagreements with patience and care. Though there were occasional tensions and rebellions, they rarely erupted into open warfare. Instead, conflicts were dealt with through prolonged discussions, meetings, and treaties, which stretched out over months and sometimes years. One of the most notable events during Henry's reign was the Provisions of Oxford, an early form of constitutional reform, which aimed to limit the power of the king and increase the influence of the barons. This document itself was the result of careful negotiation and compromise, rather than sudden confrontation. It marked the beginning of a long, slow process of political evolution in England. Following Henry III, Edward I, often called Edward Longshanks, became king in 1272. Edward was known for his towering stature and stern demeanor. His reign lasted 35 years and was marked by military campaigns in Wales and Scotland. The conquest of Wales was a lengthy and gradual affair, involving the slow advance of troops, the careful siege of castles, and the establishment of English control over the region. These military operations were not swift, but rather deliberate and methodical. Edward was also a reformer of English law. He sought to create a more consistent and fair legal system, which would apply equally throughout the kingdom. His efforts included the creation of new courts, the appointment of royal judges, and the slow publication of legal codes. All these actions took place over years, reflecting the steady and persistent nature of Edward's rule. During Edward's reign, construction of castles and fortifications continued at a slow but steady pace. The building of these strongholds was a monumental task, requiring vast amounts of resources, manpower, and time. Each castle took years to complete, and their purpose was primarily defensive, to maintain control over newly conquered lands and protect English interests. Edward's son, Edward II, ascended the throne in 1307. His reign lasted 20 years, but was marked by internal struggles with the nobility. These conflicts were often slow-moving, characterized by long periods of tension and political maneuvering. Edward faced opposition from powerful barons who challenged his authority through a series of drawn-out disputes. Eventually, Edward II was deposed in a slow and careful process. His wife, Queen Isabella, along with her ally Roger Mortimer, led a rebellion against him. Rather than a sudden overthrow, this was a prolonged campaign involving strategic alliances, negotiations, and gradual shifts in power. The king was eventually captured and forced to abdicate. Though the details of his final days are unclear, it is known that he died in captivity, a slow and somber end to a troubled reign. Edward III took the throne in 1327 and ruled for 50 years. His reign is remembered for the beginning of the 100 Years' War with France, a conflict that spanned more than a century. However, the war itself was characterized by long periods of inactivity, interspersed with occasional battles. Many years passed with little fighting, as both sides prepared and regrouped slowly and carefully. Edward III was also a patron of the arts and culture. He promoted chivalry and the ideals of knighthood, encouraging tournaments and pageantry. These events were slow and formal, lasting days and often involving careful planning and preparation. Edward's court was a place of ceremony and ritual, where every action was deliberate and measured. During his reign, alliances were formed through marriage, binding together powerful families and kingdoms. These alliances were often arranged over years with lengthy negotiations and formal agreements. Such political maneuvers were an essential part of medieval diplomacy, which unfolded at a slow, deliberate pace. Richard II succeeded Edward III in 1377. He became king as a child and faced many challenges during his youth. His reign included several uprisings and conflicts, but these were often suppressed slowly and without dramatic violence. Richard's rule was marked by periods of stability interspersed with tension, as the young king learned the art of governance and negotiation. This concludes our journey through this portion of English royal history. Feel free to take a deep breath, relax, and prepare for the next chapter, where we will continue with the later kings, exploring their reigns with the same calm and steady pace. Let the quiet words guide you deeper into relaxation. As we continue, Richard II's reign came to an end in 1399 when he was deposed by his cousin Henry Bolingbroke, who then became King Henry IV. Henry IV's reign, lasting from 1399 to 1413, was marked by efforts to restore stability to a kingdom weary of political unrest. His time as king was not filled with swift battles or sudden changes, but rather with slow negotiations, long-lasting political tensions, and cautious governance. Henry faced multiple rebellions and uprisings, but each was met with steady, calculated responses rather than hasty violence. He worked diligently to consolidate his power, reaching out to nobles and common folk alike, securing their loyalty through careful promises and measured actions. The king's rule was like a slow-moving river, steady, persistent, and never rushing. This slow pace allowed the kingdom to gradually regain a sense of order and calm. Henry V succeeded his father in 1413, and his reign, though shorter at just 9 years, is often remembered for his military campaigns during the 100 Years' War. Most famously, the Battle of Agincourt in 1415 showcased his tactical brilliance. However, even this significant battle was part of a larger, drawn-out conflict, marked by years of preparation, negotiation, and slow-moving troop movements. Henry V was a devout and disciplined leader, known for his careful planning and steady determination. Between battles, he focused on strengthening his kingdom through peaceful means, establishing alliances and securing the loyalty of his subjects. His reign was a blend of calculated war and cautious diplomacy, each phase unfolding gradually over time. After Henry V's untimely death in 1422, his infant son, Henry VI, ascended the throne. His reign was long and fraught with challenges, lasting until 1461 and briefly again from 1470 to 1471. During this time, England experienced the slow unraveling of its position in France and the beginning of the Wars of the Roses, a series of civil wars between rival factions of the English nobility. These conflicts were drawn out and complex, marked by lengthy battles, sieges, and shifting alliances. Rather than sudden upheavals, the wars unfolded slowly, with periods of uneasy peace and protracted struggles for power. Henry VI was a deeply religious and gentle king, often described as more a man of prayer than a man of war. His cautious nature led him to avoid rash decisions, and he frequently sought peaceful resolutions to conflicts. Though his reign was turbulent, the changes were incremental rather than abrupt. Edward IV emerged as a key figure during the Wars of the Roses. He ruled from 1461 to 1483, representing the House of York. Edward's reign was a period of shifting fortunes, as he fought to secure his claim to the throne amidst ongoing conflict. Despite the turmoil of civil war, Edward was known for his careful administration. He worked to strengthen royal authority, repair the kingdom's finances, and encourage trade. His reign was marked by periods of reconstruction and slow recovery, as England began to heal from decades of unrest. Edward also invested in building projects, including the restoration of royal palaces and churches. These efforts took years to complete, involving the slow and steady work of skilled artisans and laborers. As we pause here, imagine the slow, deliberate rhythm of life in medieval England. The steady sound of hammers on stone, the measured pace of knights training in the courtyard, and the quiet murmur of courtiers discussing matters of state. Let this calm imagery settle in your mind as we prepare to continue our journey through the centuries of English history. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and allow the steady flow of time to guide you. Following the death of Edward IV in 1483, his young son Edward V briefly ascended the throne. However, this young king's reign was short and surrounded by uncertainty. The political climate was tense, as powerful figures in the kingdom maneuvered slowly to gain influence. Edward V and his younger brother were confined to the Tower of London, a fortress steeped in history and mystery. The exact fate of these two young princes remains one of the most enduring puzzles in English history. For decades, scholars have debated their disappearance, but much like the silent stones of the tower itself, the truth remains shrouded in quiet darkness. This period of slow-moving political intrigue and unresolved questions set the stage for the rise of a new dynasty, the Tudors. Henry Tudor, a distant relative with a cautious claim to the throne, emerged as a key figure in the ongoing struggle for power. His claim was not immediate or assured. but built slowly over years through careful alliances and calculated moves. The decisive moment came at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, where Henry Tudor defeated King Richard III. This battle, while decisive, was only the culmination of years of careful planning and preparation. It marked the end of the Wars of the Roses, a series of civil conflicts that had unfolded with slow, grinding intensity over decades. Henry VII's reign began a new chapter for England, one focused on restoring stability to a kingdom deeply scarred by decades of unrest. His approach to rule was deliberate and measured. Rather than rushing into reforms or warfare, he preferred slow, calculated steps to strengthen the monarchy and consolidate power. One of Henry's primary goals was to rebuild the royal treasury, which had been drained by constant warfare. He introduced new taxation methods and improved financial management, actions that slowly replenished the coffers of the crown. This slow economic recovery allowed England to begin flourishing once again. Henry also sought to manage relations with the nobility carefully. He was wary of granting too much power to any one lord, balancing their influence with that of the crown through long-term strategies. The king's cautious diplomacy helped prevent sudden uprisings and maintained a fragile peace during his entire reign. During Henry VII's time, England began to see the gradual decline of medieval feudalism. The old system of landholding and vassalage gave way slowly to new forms of governance. Parliament became increasingly important, and the legal system evolved with measured steps toward the rule of law. This slow transformation was mirrored in cultural developments as well. The Renaissance, which began on the continent, started seeping into England with gentle persistence. New ideas in art, literature, science, and philosophy entered the kingdom's consciousness slowly but surely. The Tudor court, under Henry's careful watch, became a patron of these emerging movements, encouraging creativity without rushing change. Society itself changed gradually. Education expanded beyond the clergy and nobility, and literacy began to spread among the growing middle class. Printing technology, recently introduced, started to disseminate books and knowledge. Though the pace was slow compared to today's standards, it was a steady march toward modernity. Religious life was also on the cusp of transformation. While Henry VII remained a devout Catholic, the seeds of reform and questioning were planted quietly in this era. These changes would unfold over the next century with profound impact. At the same time, England looked outward. Exploration and trade voyages began to extend English influence beyond its shores. Though early voyages were tentative and limited, they laid the groundwork for a slowly expanding global presence. Merchants and explorers moved cautiously, mapping unknown seas and establishing distant contacts step by step. Imagine now the world of late 15th century England. The flicker of candlelight in grand halls, the hushed conversations of courtiers, the slow turn of a page in an illuminated manuscript. Hear the distant sound of horse hooves on cobblestone streets, the quiet murmur of a marketplace waking up slowly. Let the weight of centuries settle around you like a soft blanket. Feel the rhythm of time, move gently, like the steady pulse of a heartbeat, guiding you into deeper calm. This concludes our journey through the final days of the medieval era and the dawn of the Tudor age. May these slow, soothing words be a companion as you drift toward peaceful rest.